When it comes to playing Persona games, there's always 3 or 4 major aspects that I personally look for: the story, the characters, the gameplay, and of course, the music. Each Persona game has different ways of tackling those major aspects, and honestly, they all do a pretty good job when it comes to it. Obviously, I have a preference for one over another. There's nothing I can do about it, but for most of the time, I think they're all great. No misses for me. I'm gonna try my best to be the most unbiased when it comes to each game. I wanna give all 3 games a proper chance so the comparison can sound fair.
So that was a fucking lie.
If I sound biased towards one game in particular, it's not my fault. Just blame the game being too good. But anyways, with that being said, let's just get into it. When it comes to the story of each game, I want to make it clear that there's no correct answer on which one has a better theme between Death in Persona 3, Truth in Persona 4, and the Oppression in Persona 5. It's more on how the game uses it in the different aspects of the story, like the characters, the social link, or even a Persona design and their meaning beyond it. With all that being said, I personally think that Persona 3 has the better story, and it's not even because the story is dark or anything, but it's just much more consistent next to the other games that suffers from pacing issues or just being too inconsistent sometimes. The important moments in Persona 3 are all great, and honestly, there's no low points to it. But I have to say though, the pacing at the start can be kinda slow and boring. I think you have to wait until around June, July for the narrative to be kinda interesting. I will concede on that, but it's not that big of a deal because the later half of the story is damn near flawless. Actually incredible. I also really like the fact that every season member feels fleshed out and useful until the end. They all get a really satisfying conclusion to the character art, and it is done so well. I was actually surprised that I really liked Junpei's and Chidori's relationship. It felt so natural for both characters liking each other. I'm not even the biggest fan of Junpei. I think he's cool and all. I still like Ryuji and Yosuke way more, but I have to admit, everything with him and Chidori was great. They cooked. Persona 3 also has some pretty good social link. Not all of them are great, of course. Kenji is just terrible. They were not cooking with that one. But in contrast, the social link with Kamiki Akinari is probably the best one in the whole series. It is just so sad to see someone who is coming to terms with his own death but still trying to find the good in life and leave something behind before it passes away. It is just so incredible. It's all about those small moments, man. They cooked. Persona 5's story is actually great. It became a really popular thing to hate on it. I hear a lot of people saying the plot is bad, and I don't know if you play the same game because you are just straight up lying. There is no way you play through the whole game including the 3rd semester and have the idea of Persona 5 having a bad plot. You are just lying to yourself at that point. Of course, the story is far from perfect, and I will get into that later because I have some really interesting criticism on it. But it became a really popular thing in the fandom to just shit on Persona 5 because of 2-3 events that don't even impact the plot that much. Like, do we really give a damn about Morgana and his antics? No, we don't. So let it go, man. It's not that deep. People tend to figure out all the great moments that happen during the story, and for most of the time, the theme of oppression or the idea of oppression is well represented in the different characters and the social link. I truly believe that everything from Size Palace to the end of the 3rd semester is the peak of the whole franchise in every single aspect. The characters, the villain, the ending, it was perfect. I don't want to go too in depth into it or the video is going to be 10 hours long and nobody got time for that, so you either gotta play the game for yourself or take my word for it, but trust me, they cooked. The Phantom Thief as a group is my favorite in the series. The chemistry they have is off the chart and the interaction is always hilarious. Makoto, Ryuji, and Yusuke are my favorite, but the whole group dynamic is great, except for that one character we don't need to mention.
Goddamn cat!
I do wish Haru had more free time. She really gets screwed being introduced so late in the game, and she misses most of the slice of life event like Hawaii and the beach. And by the time you finish her part of the story, she is basically irrelevant to the plot or useless, which kinda sucks because I think she was kinda cool and playing strikers made me appreciate her character even more, but it's not that big of a deal. With all that being said, I have to be honest, Persona 5's story is way too inconsistent sometimes. I really don't like the way most of the conflict are resolved. With the society that the game portrays being so messed up, you cannot boil down most of the issues to older people being evil. and the younger ones, the teenagers being the good guy, it is way too naive. It's way deeper than that, and it's not just black and white. I can understand the Phantom Thief being naive, like I just said, they are still young, but the game itself should have challenged their ideas in a more interesting way than just older people bad and teenagers good. And the funniest thing about this is that the game knows itself. Some of the momentous regrets of the Phantom Thief changing the heart of people around their age who are doing terrible things like assaulting their girlfriends and other horrible action. So the game knows but chooses not to focus on it because I don't know why. I really hope that was actually part of the main plot, because this is a much more interesting approach to the story and could have made the group reflect on their action, and maybe not everyone is just black and white. It is such a bummer, honestly. Persona 5 Sharkus actually does a really good job on blurring the line between straight up evil and being misguided, and it's actually great. You need to go play it for yourself. But anyways, I still love Persona 5 story, that's never gonna change, but I had to be fair and criticize it properly because the story is far from being perfect. For the last one, I'm gonna keep it brief. Persona 4 story is my least favorite, and it's not because it's about anything. I think the game does a really good job on showing how the murders impacted some of the people, especially Yosuke. He was damn near having a mental breakdown trying to deal with it, and the way he got over it with his social link and the plot itself is some really good stuff. Yosuke is easily, I hope this is not a debate, he is by far the best character in Persona 4, and it's not even close. He feels like the main character for most of the time. He was the only character who had agency over you for some moment. That scene at the hospital just shows how great of a character he is. Being faced with a potential culprit that may have killed his friend, he loses it, and he is so close on killing Namatame, and it feels so natural and believable. Easily the best scene in the whole game, bar none. One more thing before I get into my complaints. I was actually one of the rare people that played Persona 4 without knowing that Adachi was the villain or the main culprit, and honestly that twist was pretty cool. This goofy ass nigga is the one behind all the murders, and it actually makes sense the more you think about it, because Adachi is always at a perfect moment giving the main cast the right amount of information to help them with the case. That was some really good build up from the plot. Okay, now the reason I don't like the plot that much is because the pacing just fucking kills it for me. It feels like until you get to Naoto's dungeon, the case around the murders doesn't progress that much. After saving Yukiko, Kanji and Rise, you learn no information about the killer when you free them. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but I don't recall anything that important. I also don't like the dynamic between the investigation team. It feels so one note. I truly think that Chie hates Yosuke, and the way she treats him doesn't help her. She is so annoying. I cannot stand her. Yukiko is cool. She's the one at romance, but she's kind of boring, and the only thing she has is her laughing gimmick, which is cool, but after that I don't see it. Kanji is great, no complaints. He is a real man. Naoto's really cool. I like her. Everything she is great, and bless her. Rise is decent, kinda clingy, but at least she has a personality and she is pretty cool. And Teddy is terrible, but I don't actually hate him. Of course he is the worst member by far, but he is kind of funny sometimes to me. I don't know why, but I'll give it to him. Anyways, Persona 4 story is not bad at all, don't get me wrong. I just personally don't like it, and I'm not gonna force myself to it. The music in Persona game is always top tier, so there's no right or wrong answer to it. It's all about your taste and what makes you feel. On that note, Persona 5 has my favorite soundtrack in the series.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Like, come on, can you even blame me? Every single song hits like crack. The Whims of Fate is the greatest OST of all time. It makes me feel some type of way, it just touches my soul. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not the only song that does it to me. Rivers in the Desert, Throw Your Mask Away, Beneath the Mask, No More What Ifs, I believe they are all great tracks. The most underrated song in the game for me is Freedom and Security. The OST that plays in the Death Mementos, it sounds so chilling and eerie, but at the same time I find it relaxing. I love how you can hear the bells ringing when you pay close attention to the song. It is very fitting, especially at that moment of the story. What a fucking track, man. I listen to it every time. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Persona 4, you will never hear me criticize the music. The songs put me in such a good mood. Heaven, Heartbeat, Heartbreak, We Touch for the Truth, Snowflakes, they are all great tracks that I listen to every day. The Boss OST also goes hard. The Fog and the Almighty are all two of the greatest tracks in the series. They are all so good. But when it comes to my favorite song or OST, I don't know, maybe Heaven, because it's the song I tend to listen to the most, but I'm not sure because the whole tracklist of Persona 4 is amazing. Persona 3 is at the bottom not because it has the worst music, but I played Reload and those tracks are not as good as compared to the other one. That sounds so soulless. I went back to listen to some of the OG tracks and the way they killed mass distraction was crazy. I don't know what they were thinking with the new Reload version, but it sounds so off. With my complaints out of the way, Persona 3 music goes hard. Wiping All Out is the best battle team in the whole series, better than Last Surprise, Takeover, Research for the Truth, better than all of them. And how can I forget to mention Color Your Night? That track is incredible. It is so relaxing and calming when you listen to it. It puts me in such a mood I want to keep doing it forever. Comparing the gameplay to the newer games to Persona 4 is so unfair. They have almost a decade of improvement. It definitely has the worst one by far. I really dislike the dungeon design. It is so tedious and not fun for most of the time. The gimmicks are just annoying and the aesthetic are kinda bland. I do think that Adachi's and Nanako's dungeon look really cool, but the risks are kinda boring for my taste. The combat is still fun because Persona gameplay is just good in general, but it still has less depth compared to the other ones. There's no status element like shock, freeze or burn, but I honestly don't even want to knock it down that much because I'm sure if you get a Persona 4 remake, the gameplay is going to be fire, no doubt about that. So it is not a negative because it is kind of put down because of how old it is, so take it how you will. Persona 3 Reload gameplay is great. It's actually just Persona 5 with a blue color scheme. Nothing wrong with that. I had a lot of fun playing the game. Every character feels so unique to use and the theory system adds even more depth to it. On the other hand, Torchworks is kinda bland, except with the environment change and the higher floors you get on. Every floor feels the same to roam or to move in. Like it's not bad at all, but I feel like most of the time it got a bit repetitive at the end. I also found the game to be pretty easy. I died like 5 times and it was just me being stupid and get an instant kill. It's very obvious that the theurgy makes the game a cakewalk, but maybe I'm used to Persona 5 combat, that's why I find it easier. But with all that being said, I had a lot of fun playing the game too. Last but not least, are you even surprised? Persona 5's gameplay is some of the most fun I've ever had in any game. You are breaking into castles, robbing banks and museums, going into pyramids, staging heights on casinos and crews. Size and Maruki's Palace are the peak of the franchise. No debate possible. Even Mementos is great. They went so crazy with the palace design. I wonder what they'll do for Persona 6 because I am really excited. I cannot wait. The core of the gameplay, the combat itself, it is so fun. Hitting an enemy with a technical attack after inflicting status element will never get old. I still find the game to be pretty easy. It's all kinda tough though. Kamoshida's palace and his boss fight were actually challenging. Maybe being new to all the new mechanics makes me think much more before I do anything, and that feeling was great. But as the game progressed, it just kept getting easier and easier with the showtime attacks, the confident abilities, and the baton pass being broken. It wasn't that much of a challenge to be honest, but I still had a lot of fun with the different bosses, and it's still by far, no debate, the best gameplay in the whole series. But that's all I gotta say for today. Thank you for watching. This script was really fun to write because it was just me giving my ideas on how to change things or my perspective on it, but it was still fun to do. Don't forget to like and subscribe and stay safe.